but it has a lot of that 90s nostalgia in it. I mean, you find, if you look back on all these shows, guys, nobody has any mobile phones, right? Some of them don't even have computers, right? And we see some of these things, and it's just like, wow, unbelievable. Rocko's Modern Life is one of those things. It's the beginning of the internet age, right at that moment. And Rocko's Modern Life is incredibly funny. The jokes are still good. Watch it today. It's not a kind of, afraid of, runaway kind of, this does not hold up over time. Rocko's Modern Life does hold up over time, and it's fantastic. It's one of those shows that you probably watched when you were a kid and laughed at, and now you look at it and you go, oh my God, look at all these tremendous jokes that I was missing. It's just great. It's a great, great show. Ah, Real Monsters. This is one worthy of mention. I remember this show being very good. It's very dark, and not dark in a Ren and Stimpy kind of way. The show is actually darker. Like, they have a kind of dark hue to it. And it takes that 90s, almost Radiohead mantra of taking the macabre, or the grotesque, I should say. Maybe not macabre. Macabre is more Smashing Pumpkins. Taking the grotesque and making it beautiful, right? Making it say something really pleasant and wonderful and good, right? And Our Real Monsters does that to a T. When you see all the characters in Our Real Monsters, it's kind of revolting, but they're all just kind of cute and cuddly, right? And that's what I'm talking about. It does that very, very well. That being said, it's a very funny show. It's extremely quirky, and if you can get past the voices being just kind of out of this world, and you're not bothered by that, then I think Our Real Monsters is something you could definitely put on a set and make it... this would not be... If you picked Our Real Monsters, you are not getting kicked off my consideration for the best block, because Our Real Monsters could definitely be in there. It was, I remember many a Sunday afternoon, slow day, picking up Our Real Monsters back in the 90s. Excellent choice. Are You Afraid of the Dark? There's a lot I could say about this one, guys. There's just a lot I could say about it. And many of you have already said what I would say. There's so many great comments about this one. It's one of those quintessential 90s shows. That being said, it's not like some of the things I've already talked about. It has lost a step. It's not as good as it used to be. It's not timeless. Does that mean it should be removed? I might say just the opposite, right? This is about the 90s being all that, right? The 90s being cool and up and above anything. They're back. So I don't think so. I think it should be mentioned there, and I think it could be part of the best block of the 90s, because it just exemplifies the 90s in a production kind of way that nothing else does. It actually still holds on to some of those 80s motifs moving forward. And by the way, I think I probably mentioned this before when we talked about Are You Afraid of the Dark? But definitely check out the one with Hayden Christensen, just to see that he was such a terrible actor back then, and how in the hell he went from being a terrible actor then all the way to being a terrible actor now. Just in lots of high-budget movies is beyond me. But anyway, go check that one out. I think it's on YouTube. Enjoy. Are You Afraid of the Dark is one of those shows that I remember Snick used to challenge us. Turn the lights off. Watch it by yourself. And I'll be honest with you guys, I couldn't do it. It was very scary at the time. That being said, if I watched it now, I'd probably be laughing out loud about it. But when I watch Are You Afraid of the Dark, I get a very kind of almost quantum leap factor to it. It's got that kind of similar production. The production is all very the same through each and every episode. It's very Canadian. It's just very kind of peanut butter and cut and dry. The shows are different every week. It has a different cast, but I really do enjoy it, and I think it's definitely worthy of mention. Are You Afraid of the Dark is a great, great, great show from the 90s. Let's talk about The Secret World of Alex Mack. Man, I'm so glad some of you mentioned this one. Definitely worthy of mention. Larissa Olinik is just gorgeous. I mean, oh my God. I remember watching that show and just having such a crazy crush on Larissa Oleynik. And her older sister was hot too, and I don't even remember her name, but she's now in like Lowe's commercials or some Home Depot commercials, and married, married like with a husband. It's very depressing. Anyway, the point is, The Secret World of Alex Mack, great show. She has superpowers. She can like turn into liquid, and then can like re-solidify herself. And I remember a few times she did that where she like re-solidified herself completely naked. Oh, how I wish I had been there when she... Anyway, so you guys get the point. You get the point. Wow, what a great okay, so the show was not just great because she was hot, although that might be 80% of it. Anyway, the point is, it was actually a really good show. I thought it did a great job of really taking that kind of mid to late 90s, taking the production value of something like, Are You Afraid of the Dark, which, is shot to be something very, very packaged. Alex Mack is very packaged, but it's a great show. And I think it did, it kind of set off some of that superhero stuff that we see the remnants of today with things like the Wizards of Waverly Place and all that kind of stuff. The superhero teenager thing was definitely picked up by Alex Mack, and I think it was a great addition and should be on the list of the best shows of the 90s and definitely worthy of consideration. Hey Dude. If you want me to right now, I'll bust the whole song out. I could sing the whole damn thing for you right now, word for word. Hey Dude was the pastiche of pastiche in shows on Nickelodeon. I don't even know what to say. You're correct. Someone mentioned that watching the show just for the eye candy value as a youth, 100% agree. The short shorts, the jorts, the short jorts. Oh yeah, I'm all over that. That was fantastic. Beautiful, and the scenery was fantastic as well. That being said, it was totally kitschy and just awful. The storylines were terrible. The show was just horribly written. It's as kitschy as it gets. But is it worthy of mention? Yeah, I think it is. I think that eventually what you see in Salute Your Shorts was really the baton that got passed from Hey Dude. And Hey Dude is definitely going to be on the short list. All that. What to say about all that? All that, once Nickelodeon got off its game show kick, because game shows really weren't selling like they used to, all that took over to be the Saturday Night Live of Nickelodeon for young kids. And I think it did it very well. I still remember a lot of those great sketches like Walter the Ear Boy and so on and so forth, Keenan and Kel. There were some great sketches that were done and all that, and they were actually really funny. Now, once they brought those folks off of those shows and they put them on some of the game shows and everything else, you're just looking at them and you're like, these people are not funny at all, right? There were exceptions to that. I remember Lori Beth Denberg was hilarious. Why don't they have more shows with Lori Beth Denberg? I know she's a little bit bigger, but crap, man. Just put her on a show. She's funny. I think I've seen her recently in something, and it was equally as kitschy and terrible. But I think she was very funny. Terrible actress, but great at sketch comedy. And there is a big difference, by the way. That's why not all the Saturday Night Live sketches they make into movies work. So all that, it was pretty cool. Had a TLC theme song. That was pretty sweet. I enjoyed that. I remember the theme song almost better than I remember the show sometimes, because the show was a little bit forgettable, especially in the very early seasons. But I remember Amanda Bynes came on, and when Amanda Bynes came on, it kind of hit a different gear, and they even gave Amanda her own show. And Amanda Bynes was beautiful, of course. I don't even need to say that. But she was extremely talented. I thought Amanda Bynes did a great job kind of rounding out the cast of the show and really making it something that was viable. She's a good actress that also happens to be very good at sketch comedy as well. I still remember her Ross Perot, which was just dead on. Rugrats, man, can't buzz through any of the Nicktoons of the 90s without talking about Rugrats. That being said, I think it probably is worthy of note that Rugrats did not age very well. I think if you watch it now, I watched all of them. I mean, I loved Rugrats. There is some adult humor that is stuck inside of it. I remember so many different, the episode that sticks in my mind is the Satchmo Sasquatch episode, where it's like the constant joke about Louis Armstrong being Satchmo, and I'm not even sure kids would get that right now. I don't even think we necessarily got it that greatly. Satchmo, the trumpet player. But anyway, the other thing of note, I mean, well, there are a lot of things of note. There's some tremendous voice acting in Rugrats, which I thought was just spectacular. The woman that voiced Tommy Pickles, I think, was the mail lady from Salute Your Shorts, if I remember correctly. And I think she did a lot of voices for Nickelodeon moving forward. Someone go check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. Tremendous voice acting in Rugrats. It was a great, great show for that. I really liked it. It was great. It didn't age well, but if you're going to make a block of the 90s, I think Rugrats has to be in that conversation. And I think it's worthy of debate to put Rugrats anywhere in this list, to be honest. You should have it. And then I put this down there, Kenan and Kel. Many of you spoke about Kenan and Kel. I have to say, I hated that show. I thought it was awful. They made a movie out of it and everything. I just, ugh. I mean, Kenan is clearly much more talented than Kel. I don't know what what was his name? Kel Williams? Yeah, Kenan Thompson, Kel Williams, I think that's what it was. Anyway, Kenan, who's now obviously, Kenan Thompson's on Saturday Night Live, and worthy of it. He's actually very good. Maybe not the best in the cast. He's probably, on the C and D list of the cast. But, if you were going to be in Kenan and Kel, and you were going to stretch out for the aspiration of the future, wouldn't you have to say Saturday Night Live would be the peak of your career? I would say so. So he's done well for himself. What do you think? I don't know what Kel's doing these days, but I can't imagine it's probably any more than riding skateboards in skateboard parks. I don't know. I just don't really see him growing up very well. So those were the ones that were the best show contributions, I thought. And I want to talk about some of the things that maybe didn't get repeated a lot or got mentioned, but I just want to say thanks for mentioning them. Invader Zim, of course, which was too late, which I think you could make an argument, and we did before, that was the best Nicktoon of all time. Good call. Not going to argue, but clearly not 90s and won't be on the block. I wanted to say this one. Thank you for mentioning, I think this was Temu John, mentioned the Tomorrow People. Man, that takes me back. That is a great one. So glad that you mentioned that one, because I actually went back and started watching some old episodes on YouTube just to jog my memory. This one was so early that I just barely remember it. But thank you for mentioning it, because it really did bring that back for me. I did have a great time looking that up and remembering, oh my God, yes, the Tomorrow People. Thanks for mentioning Space Cases. Now that's an interesting one. I remember Space Cases very well, and I thought, for those of us that were into Star Trek like I was when I was a kid, Space Cases was really cool. And I think it's fitting. First of all, I'd say this. And I'm not 100% sure how to say her name. I just want to throw this out there. But Jewel Staite, I think is her name. She's a Canadian actress. She was in that show. She had the rainbow hair, like the rainbow bowl cut hair. I was so into her. She was so hot. Anyway, this whole like weird this whole episode of the Weekly Wringer is about all the girls that the Commodore found hot when he was 12. Right? I mean, I'm glad I could share that with you guys. Anyway, whatever. I hope you don't mind. But anyway, so the Space Cases was great. Jewel Staite was in that. She was amazing. But I really like Star Trek. And so that show offered a kind of bridge between, the Star Trek that was going on and maybe your parents were into, and some of the cooler kind of kid themes of Nick shows, and bringing them together in a space drama, and I thought it did a very good job. Although I have to say, I think it was dominated as a Canadian show, and it tried to be things I think that you couldn't be for kids to enjoy, and it probably overshot what it was trying to do, and therefore missed. This sounds eerily familiar, and someday I might write something about this, to another show that we might remember, called Firefly, which I would argue has all the same exact attributes that I just talked about, including Jewel Stady being on the ship.